When did you guys first meet? Let's start with that, because I know you guys are tight. I know that.
Well,
obviously.
Here's the deal. Mitch Schwartz, member of the tribe, as you know, one of your favorite stories ever. He was like, dude, I feel like you and Veach are going to be friends. This was years ago. And I said, well, I've never met him.
Yeah.
And I have a specific memory, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but of when you were hired. It was during Big Slick. You very well could have been there.
Yeah.
We were loading into the vans at the hotel, and it came off that, Doris had been fired or let go and hired Brett Veach. And I'm like, Brett Veach? Who is Brett Veach? Like Googling. And I was like, all right, well, this is a day that I'll remember forever. And so Schwartz had said that, and then we bonded and clicked over his daughter being a fan of the Toy Box. I was at the Chiefs game, and he was like, hey, will you meet my daughter real quick? And then we became friends.
The cool thing about Eric is when you meet people that are fans of the Chief, it's like one of those things where you can differentiate between a fan and a real fan.
Yes.
And so, quickly after we got to know each other, he was sending me texts asking about practice squad players. And some guys I didn't even know about. This guy,
well, how soon upon meeting you did he show you the picture of him as a fan went back in the day on his phone?
The picture in the end zone?
Yeah, the end zone.
Oh, that's like the first day. That's like the first day. That's his intro to every Chiefs fan.
Because it shows that he's...
No, it's real. It's not
shows that you're legit. You're legit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we've had this run, and I'll tell you the other, Brett Veach story that for me personally and Lindsay personally and for you tomorrow night personally.
Yes, sir.
Literally, this man said to me, going on 4 years ago, what's your seat situation at Arrowhead? And I said, I don't have seats. The Hunts are gracious enough to offer me tickets every once in a while. You're going to want to get seats for the next 10 years. So Lindsay and I called and we're like, literal quote. You're going to want seats for the next 10 years.
Why would you? Why did you say
that's
that?
Fulfilling your general manager obligation. So it's
well, you were generally
selling tickets. And,
you're generally managing Eric Stonestreet.
Yeah,
that's what you're doing right there.
He said you're not going to want to miss a game with Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to want to miss a game. And so that year we got a suite. I flew back it was the last year of Modern Family. I flew back for every game on Sunday. I didn't miss a game that season in Arrowhead. We went on, of course, to win the Super Bowl that year. And I thank him all the time for spending all that money of mine. Getting the suite. But yeah, he called his shot.
Dude, you saw it, right? So again, because I asked Clark Hunt, when was the first time you met Patrick Mahomes? And he said there was some sort of a Super Bowl party or something like that. And Lee Steinberg kind of put the two of them together because he had already, had heard Mahomes was on the Chiefs' radar screen, or the Chiefs already had him on the radar screen. And he basically said it was you.
Yeah.
He said it was you who saw Mahomes, and you had worked on Mahomes for 18 months. So what did you see out of him back in the day?
I got coached up right by the great Andy Reid, and it's just one of those things. I think, when you sit there and you evaluate tape all day, every day for a career, the good ones are going to stand out, and then the great ones are just going to take your breath away, so to speak. So, when you start watching his tape, and I think I've told the story a few times, I think I was actually starting off watching an offensive lineman for Texas Tech, and Pat wasn't even, a name that was declaring for the draft, and you start watching this game, and you're like, oh, that's a pretty cool throw. And then you get on to say, that's really interesting, and then all of a sudden you're not watching the lineman, you're just watching the quarterback, and then, one game turns into 2 games, turns into a season, and then it was almost like one of those things that you think, looking back on it, that it was supposed to happen, because it was like during that time when Coach Reid walked by the office, and I don't think there was anybody in that day, and he just kind of said, what are you doing? And I jokingly said at the time, I'm just watching the next quarterback, and it just so happened, to work out that we ended up drafting him, and here we are, and it's crazy to think all the success we've had, but it's been a blessing, and I think we all thought Pat would be good, but this is next level, and I think you realize that you're around greatness every day, obviously not just with the quarterback, but with the coach as well. So it's just been a perfect marriage of a coach quarterback that just clicks, and it clicked from day one.
And it's so rare to find a generational talent, but somebody who's also generationally enriching, not just to himself, but everyone around him, the halo effect of pretty much everyone around him. And you legitimately did say to Andy Reid, I'm watching our next quarterback. What did he say to you?
Well, listen, again, this is like in the spring, so he was like, yeah, I gotcha. And he kind of just peeked at the tape for a second and walked away, and then it followed up with a follow. You start sending those videos from your phone, and you're sending it to him. And so I started sending him a bunch of those, and then it was funny because we got to like December, and I was on the road. I wasn't in the office, so I was on the road scouting.
Yeah.
And I sent him like maybe 4 to 6 clips of him in his most recent game. And mind you, coach is prepping for a game week.
Yes.
And Pat Mahomes, he doesn't even know, it's not on his radar. And he shot me a text back, like, dude, cut it out. Like, we'll talk about this after the season, you know? And
no kidding.
But I mean, I just think it was a slow build up, and you know, he got a little annoyed. And then after the season, once coach started to digest the film, I mean, he fell in love with them. And then really, I mean, everyone did. And then we brought him into the facility, and coach is known to have like his quarterback academy type deal where he brings them in, and we bring draft prospects in, and they spend 2-3 hours with the coach. And most of the time it's not bad because it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember when he came out of that quarterback meeting in his pre-draft interview, I mean, coach was like, this kid nailed this thing. And I think it's still one of the things that people, I think they still get enamored by the highlight throws and the arm strength and the athleticism. And I think people think he's smart, but he is on that level of, you know, the Mannings and the Bradys, like his IQ. And I think that's, when you have both of those traits, it's super deadly. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for how smart he is.
Well, the deadliest part, too, in terms of the combination, is the red ass that I think the quarterback series showed to a group of fans that I don't think people were quite aware of. That sort of Jordan, Kobe, Brady, Tiger-esque, Curry-esque,
Mahomes-esque.
Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to include him now,
Yeah.
Eric. You really do. And when did you see that? When was that revealed to you?
Well, I mean, early on,
Kansas State versus Texas Tech.
That was to you. Revealed to you.
Yeah, I remember the deep balls for there, and I had no idea he would be on the radar of the Chiefs. But I'm like, damn, this guy is freaking great. My dad talked about him in college too.
Actually, the last game I went to see him play before he declared, I think they played at Iowa State, so I drove up to Ames to see him play.
In the snow.
In the snow. I mean, there might have been 14,000 people there. It was brutally cold, and both teams were not bowl eligible, and they got off to a horrific start, and I think Pat hurt her shoulder, and it might have been like 34-6 at halftime, and I'm thinking to myself, well, this kid's going to declare. We kind of know that now, and it's 34-6 at halftime. Both teams aren't going to bowl. He has his draft future ahead of him and his pro future ahead of him. So I started packing up my bags. I'm like, I'm leaving because there's no way he's going back. And he didn't play the whole second quarter.
Right.
He left with a shoulder injury. So I started packing up my bag, and as I'm walking down the stairs to leave, he's going back in the game. Again, it's a blowout. Hurt shoulder, draft coming up. I mean, there's zero need to play in that game. And sure enough, he goes out there and starts the third quarter, and you just feel like, you know, this is a competitor at the end of the day.
That's a metric to somebody like yourself who's scouting.
Most players that would be prepping for the draft,
Yeah.
I mean, there's one aspect if your team's fighting to be bowl eligible or fighting for something, I mean, they'll gut it out. But to gut it out just for your teammates, and the only reason that they was gutting out just for his teammates, I mean, that's a special and unique trait that you don't see nowadays. And that's certainly something that kind of led you to believe everything that you had thought already. So he's just a special, and he's been like that since he's been here. I mean, he wants to win at everything, and whether it's golf in the off season or basketball in the locker room, I mean, he's just wired that way. And that's why I always wonder why people try to, you know, poke the bear, because he has one of those unbelievable memories, and he never forgets anything, and he'll do it in his own way in regards to addressing situations, and he's the best at it.
So was it appropriate for us to say, or at least view, his response to that rookie in Vegas with the Muppet when he said that'll get handled when it's handled?
I'm pretty sure that's a T-shirt here in Kansas City.
Is that a T-shirt?
I'm pretty sure.
We thought,
I said that
the second we heard the soundbite, we're like,
T-shirt.
It'll get handled when it gets handled.
It'll get handled when it gets, and we're like, uh-oh. Like, that's the way we viewed it. Is that appropriate to view it that way?
I mean, look, I mean, I don't know exactly what's, inside Pat's head, but that's how he deals with a lot of things. Like, he does it on his own terms, and he has a way of, just writing it down in the mental box up there, and he looks for reasons, to get motivated, but all great ones do. Because when you achieve so much success and you've accomplished everything, you always wonder, like, what drives those people, and they look for reasons to get motivated, and that's why I said I question why people want to give him more ammunition than is already out there, because he's one of those guys that he really thrives off being challenged.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.